The Local Women's Sport Podcast with Denise Watson is brought to you by Go. Fueling Sport.
Hello and welcome to the Local Women's Sport Podcast with me, Denise Watson, sponsored by Go. And this week we have got the woman behind the Female Sports Forum, and she's quite shy. It took a lot for her to come here today, but I want to find out more from Natalie Niederman about the Female Sports Forum in Northern Ireland. Natalie, very welcome to Local Women's Sport.
Oh, thank you for having me. So the Female Sports Forum kind of started in 2010. Kind of with a group of women who were working in sport, and they kind of got together kind of in an informal basis to chat about like what needed changed, and then kind of progress from there. So in 2017, we had a big piece of investment called the Active Fit and Sporty Plan, which was done between the 5 main outdoor sports. So that would be rugby, ladies Gaelic, camogie, IFA, and hockey. I've gotten all 5. Okay, yeah. I'm always worried I'm missing one. There's always one. It's normally hockey or rugby, and it's a toss-up. But I think, so it started there, and then we had investment. We kind of proceeded on there until 2020, and the funding kind of ended. And I came into the role in 2022, and so we've just kind of tried to get that ball rolling again. Yeah. So we kind of sit in this place that I'm really fortunate to be engrossed in women's sport all day long, but we support kind of at that sport NGB level, so the national governing bodies, kind of through an advocacy and education and resource standpoint, along with talking about participation and leadership are still kind of our really main tenets. You know, active and sporty outlined, media, role models, research, and leadership as kind of the 4 pillars. And we've kind of adjusted that as time has gone on, but that's really where it started. But it's definitely expanded beyond those 5 sports because not everyone identifies with playing a team sport. I know I didn't. So we really want to make sure that participation level, that you can participate at any level and you can find and see yourself within sport. And that's kind of like where we want to promote the both physical activity and being sporty kind of to everyone.
Yeah, because the Female Sports Forum is for everyone, and you want women to sort of go to find out, like, if you've never been involved in sport, at least this is a place where like-minded women can come to and find out about lots of different sports. Yeah.
So I try to do my best to share out different opportunities and highlight different people who are within sport, because I think there is a role for everyone to play, no matter if you're, just getting back into sport, have long been sporty, or any of these things. There is a role for everyone. And I think people take a step back and it's really hard to go back into sport or even to pick up a ball again, or if you don't see yourself, right? Like at any level, like we can find role models in our elite athletes, but we can also find role models in our
school teachers.
Yeah, school teachers. Yeah. How many people have said their school teacher is the reason they got into sport, or that coach when they were yay big? Yeah. That's kind of the big role, and just showing that those people exist and are a lot of times women. So often are women, and we want to kind of encourage that to continue.
Yeah. Natalie, tell me about your story in sport, because obviously, from your lovely accent, you're Canadian.
No, American.
Yeah. Have I just offended you there?
No, it's all right. I'll take Canadian over American.
So tell me about your background and how you got involved.
Yeah, so I started swimming when I was, there's a large Learn to Swim club when I grew up, and so I'm a twin, and so I have a twin brother, and they are a very competitive and athletic person, and so they hated cold water, and I was quite good at it. So I got into swimming, and how it ended up being was I split my nose open when I was about 6 or 7, and was in lessons, and so basically I had to take up makeup lessons. And so from there, they were like, you're better than any of the makeup lessons we have going on, so you might want to join the swim team. Right. So I joined a swim team called the YWCA Flying Fish in Evansville, Illinois, and I swam there my entire career. And then I swam Division III in college at Grinnell College, and took a really active role on the women's and men's team. And then when I moved over to Northern Ireland, this job kind of popped up, and I was like, I can do women's sport. That's kind of that. But where I grew up, a YW is also a domestic abuse shelter. So I took a lot of pride in offering a lot of swim lessons. I worked at a summer camp through a YM. So I've been like around water and swimming my whole life, and I take a lot of passion in it. And, it's just kind of become my identity. But it definitely came from me being competitive and wanting to be better than my brother at the end of the day. So, still better than swimming.
But no, swimming's a great sport. As you say, it's an individual sport. It's like it's mentally taxing. It's physically taxing. It changes the discipline involved in getting up early in the morning and going to the pool. But you mentioned there about like reaching into the community in some way, and women with domestic abuse, and how you were almost then, I suppose you have a compassionate side to you as well, and you see how sport can shape people's lives, even if they're going through something really bad.
Yeah, so I think the YW has been so much of my identity. If you've ever been there, it's which probably no one has, at least in Northern Ireland, it's a tiny 5-lane pool. Air quality is terrible, and I had opportunities to go some other places, but the community there is like just the best people. Like it raises a lot of money for like racism and talking about all those things. It's very much ingratiated in the community. I don't know someone who didn't learn how to swim that didn't learn how to swim at Flying Fish. Yeah. And so it is like the nearest and dearest to me. Like I just find so much power and passion in, I would offer to teach swim lessons to the kids who their mums might be in the shelter, and they would get breakfast and a book and a swim lesson out of it. They're just like so much of a passion of it. And it definitely kept me swimming for a long time. I had a really influential coach, and, that's kind of what kept me going kind of beyond the sport itself.
The Local Women's Sport Podcast with Denise Watson is brought to you by Go. Fueling sport.
So you came to Northern Ireland, and I suppose like a blank canvas.
Yeah.
You just didn't really know how things came together here. But the Female Sports Forum do work in collaboration with, let's be very clear about this, the Northern Ireland Sports Forum and Richard Honeyford. So what's that relationship like? Yeah,
so the Sports Forum kind of took us on when in 2017, Kieran Kearney, who is now at Croke Park, he used to be the manager for the Sports Forum. He was really into his Gaelic games and sports, obviously. So they kind of took us under as kind of a supporting branch. We do a lot of similar work to what they do. They kind of work for all sports, all different types of groups as like that advocacy partner. And so it kind of is a natural fit for the Female Sports Forum when we're kind of in our infancy in a lot of ways, and can definitely use the support that the Sports Forum gives, because we do see ourselves, or at least I see it, the Female Sports Forum as a place for advocacy and to talk about those issues, talking about pitch times and different barriers that women face and why they face them. I think there's still a lot of learning to be done in that space. So the Sports Forum definitely helps us in that. So they are kind of the voice for voluntary sport is their tagline. And they definitely play that role.
Do you feel that you have a voice in the Female Sports Forum? And in terms of the rest of the world, because you come from America, the great, did you see sort of different views here, or maybe views maybe a few years behind the States, or are we a progressive country?
I think we're definitely getting there. I think there's a lot of things that Northern Ireland has a lot of its own challenges, right? Like I think working at the kind of national governing body level, you see sports that are affiliated to Ireland, that are affiliated to the UK, that are Northern Irish only. And so that plays, I would say, more of a part than I would ever have to play in the US. And the US is just so big, right? Yeah. Like I swam in Illinois. I have people who swam and it looked completely different. It's like every state is their own country. But like college sports play such a big role that they don't play a role over here, at least not in the same way. So I think it was like learning a lot of new things, a lot of new sports. So I think that's probably the biggest difference. I knew very little about Gaelic games. I always joke, I wish I could understand cricket. And no offense to anybody who doesn't understand cricket, but I find it
one
very
day
difficult.
Cricket I can when we get into the sort of nitty-gritties of the test match as well. But then speaking of cricket, so there's a sport there that has massively benefited from there being sort of investment on it, particularly in the south of Ireland. But women's cricket, you've got professional contracts now coming through. So that must make your day when you hear the likes of that happening.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Yeah, we have professional contracts for rugby, and you have professional contracts for cricket. And we have some incredible cricket players up in Northern Ireland as well. The likes of Amy Hunter, who I think is currently on a part-time, as she's still in school, but she is the captain for the under-19s. Who else do we have? We have quite a few. I mean, you have so many captains and leaders who play a range of different sports that are on professional contracts now. And it's really great to see that we have so many of those leaders and up and coming players as well.
And young girls who are actually really quite assertive and strong and have a voice. And that's good to see, isn't it?
Yeah. I was sitting, I was at something earlier today and I sat next to Anna Pym, who's quite a leader, plays hockey. You get to see the likes of quite a few different, across the board. The Northern Irish women's team is quite young at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's really good to see that there's so many new names and faces coming into the spheres, as well as those kind of veterans that are really gaining confidence. I think you can see that over the last Commonwealth Games and Olympic cycle, that we have newcomers and big names alike both coming into that space.
Have we got anything coming up like the Active Fit Sporty campaign from 2017? Because that did highlight the Female Sports Forum, and you need to know, like, there's no point in you putting all this hard work in and people not knowing where to go to.
Yeah. So, I mean, we still have our website, and I put out our general news almost every month, and we have our Facebook and Instagram. And then you help us with our Women in Sports series that we are trying to do more regularly. So we have one at the end of the month. It's the 27th, and that will be focusing on like research insights into playing. So I've noticed that people will go to University of Ulster, or anything like that, and find all the time that they're like, man, I wish I knew how to take this wonderful research and put it into my work. So we're going to have some researchers and people within the field that are saying, let's show you how to take this like insight, this data, this research, this knowledge, and put it into what we're doing. You know, there's a lot of really great data. I was at an event in January talking about we need to be more interdisciplinary. We need to talk to practitioners, all this stuff, because there's so much. I think that's where we have a huge gap still, is in that research. You know, we don't understand a lot about like periods and how like women's cycles play into performance. We don't know about eating healthy. We don't like, we also, I don't think, always understand like the social and kind of environmental pressures that are put on women. And so understanding that just makes the game better.
Yeah. And everyone. That fear of maybe having played sport, left to have your children and a family, and coming back into it and feeling maybe a little bit isolated. I mean, the sport is for everybody.
Yeah, I definitely think sport is really for everyone, right? So, and I think we're seeing a rise in social sport. There's, basketball, you see a lot of social sport, netball, all these different, hockey and rugby. So you kind of see, and get like, Mothers and Others as well. Yeah. You'll see this rise of social sport, but I don't think it's been taken as seriously. And then you hear this is the only time people take away from their families. Sometimes this is the only time they get to see their friends or take a social activity. So it's really getting that, like, it's great for health. It's, we did a survey about a month ago and had over 600 responses. And a lot of them was, I do it for myself. Yeah. But also it's all about that social bit. And so, and not everyone wants to be competitive, right? Yeah. As much as I love I'm a competitive person, I understand that sometimes it's just about having a gab and going and getting a chit chat with your friends.
In that group with people, it's so important. So Natalie, how do your family back home in Illinois view what you're doing now?
I think they really enjoy it. So, my degree isn't in sports, and so I'm always getting to share new things with them. So, and I think they really enjoy that. I think they're happy I have a job and I'm working every day. So, that's a big thing. But my dad shot documentaries here in the 90s. So he's been over to Northern Ireland before and they've come and visited me. But it's definitely always a good excuse for a trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, look, good luck with your plans for the future.
Yeah.
And keep the ball rolling. I know local women's sport. Would love to see how the Female Sports Forum is going as well. So, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
The Local Women's Sport Podcast with Denise Watson is brought to you by Go. Fueling Sport.